Hello, Miss Cynthia. This is Dr. Artist. So thank you for this information. And what I'm going to try to do is make this a little bit simpler. However, it is not one of those straightforward type of problems, okay? Algebra gets more complicated the more advanced it becomes, okay? So if you're not really familiar with basic algebra, the intermediate and advanced algebra will be much difficult because they're more complex, more intricate, right? So here, for these two particular equations, what you have to do is you need a term in your original equation that will actually cancel each other out so that you could solve for the two variables, x and y. You need to at least solve for one first so that you can then solve for the second equation. But before you can do that, you have to have terms in the original equation that will actually cancel each other out. In this particular one, we do not. So you have to manipulate the system of equations to actually create the scenario that you need in order to solve for your terms. And that's what we're going to do. The way you manipulate the systems of equations is that you take the first numbers right here, 5 and 6 are the ones we're focusing on, and we're going to create a scenario by manipulating the terms, whereas x will cancel itself out so that we can solve for y and then go back into the original equation, taking one of them and then solving for our x value, okay? So now, having said that, what you're going to actually do is we're going to multiply this entire equation here by the -6. And then we're going to take the second equation and we're going to multiply this one by the 5. So we're just switching them. The reason why is because a -6 times 5 will give us a -30. And we have to make this a -5. I'm sorry. So you have to make this a -5 because when you multiply a -5 and a -6, that's going to give us a +30. And a -30 and a +30 will cancel each other out. So that's how you can determine whether or not you created an effective systems of equation, whereas you're able to calculate one of the terms, okay? So now you have to take this -6 and multiply by each term in the parentheses, okay? Each one of these terms. And likewise, you have to take the -5 and multiply it times each of these terms as well. So you're creating a whole new systems of equation. That's how you're manipulating this systems of equation in order to give you the terms that you need to solve your problem, okay? So having said that, we have -6 times times 5x will give us a -30x. We have a -6 and a -14 will give us a positive, and that's going to give us 24, that's 2, let's see, it's 24, 6 plus 2, 84, y equals, and then we're going to have a positive, because we have a -6 and a -23 will give us a positive, and then we have to multiply 23 times 6, and that will give us, we have 18, and then 6 and 2 is 12, carry the 1 will give us 13, okay? So it appears you have your values there, which is good, and now we're going to take the second equation of the systems of equation and do the same thing. Multiply this -5 times each of the terms inside of the parentheses. So we have a -5 and a -6 will give us a positive 30x, and I have to put my x value up top as well. Okay, so this will be an x. And then I have -5 plus 7y will give me a negative 35y. And then I'm going to take this negative 5 equals, and then this 8. And when I multiply a negative 5 times 8, that would give me a negative 40. Now we have created the systems of equation that will work for us in terms of allowing us to solve for our x and our y values. So immediately I have created a systems, whereas I can eliminate my two 30s here, because a negative 30 and a positive 30 immediately cancels each other out. Okay? So now I'm going to solve for y once I solve the rest of my system, right? So now I have 84 minus 35. That would give me, that's 9. That becomes 7, and that's 4. So we have a positive 49y, and then we have equals 138 minus 40, and we have 8, and that would be, okay, so we have 98. Let me double check and make sure I have the right information here. Okay, so now we want to divide our 49 because we need to get rid of the y. I mean, we need to isolate our y, so we need to get rid of the 49. So divide by 49 on both sides. And that's going to give us y is equal to 38 divided by 49 equals. Okay, so Miss Cynthia, so when you divide 49 into 998, that's going to give you 2. So our y value is actually 2. Okay? So now in order to find our x value, we have to take this 2 and insert it into one of our original equations. Okay? And so let's do that. Okay, so when you take this 2, you can choose either one of these original equations to solve for x. It doesn't matter. I would choose the one with the smaller numbers, okay? It makes it easier. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to take negative 6x plus 7. And now we know what the y value is, so we're just going to insert it into the equation. We have 2 equals 8. So now we have negative 6x plus 14 equals 8. We want to move the 14. We want to actually minus out the 14 here, as well as on the other side. And that's going to give us a negative 6x, a negative 14, a negative 14 and a positive 8. You need to subtract, and that's going to give you 6, and it's going to be a negative 6. Because you have a negative 14, which is a bigger number than 8. So then, when we divide by our negative 6 on both sides, that gives us x equals 1. So our x equals 1 because a negative 6 and a negative 6 gives us a positive 1. So now we have the values for both y and x. Okay, I hope that this has helped. You can send me another one if you have any questions, or you can send me your email regarding this presentation if you have any questions as well. Okay?